Hey, what's going on, everybody? How we doing tonight? It's your man, Big Ragu, waiting on this guy, DJ Big Boss, for another edition of the Boss and the Sauce Show, fresh out of Las Vegas from the Super Bowl. Hope everybody's doing great tonight. My guy DJ will be here very shortly. We're going to kick this thing off. I know DJ put a title for 2020 looks for college football, which, you know what? When you're in the business, you're always on the grind. You're always looking for you always got to be on top of all the changes, the coaches changes, the recruiting classes. So I know we're right in the middle of basketball season. So my man put that title up. So hey, that's what we're gonna go with tonight. So let's look at the chat tonight, see who we got in our chat. We got Alex Ramirez. Thank you, Alex, for joining us tonight. We got Asif Khan. Thank you very much. Boss will be here. Dom Ricci. Wham, I'm sure, is gonna pop in and give us a few looks later on, either through the chat or live. But anyways, hope everybody's doing good on a Thursday night. There's some crazy weather going on right now all across the country. Down here in Florida, we're expecting some big storms here, probably about another 10, 15 minutes. We got tornado warnings. I mean, there's snow blizzards everywhere. There's wind. There's all kinds of crazy shit going on with this weather right now. So everybody be safe out there tonight. And, we'll get into these games and we'll talk about, this upcoming recruiting class in college football. So listen, I want to know what were some of your looks tonight. I got a couple games that I played early. I played NBA-wise. I played the Milwaukee Bucks first quarter. It lost. It didn't get the job done. And I have them also that was a -3. And I have the Bucks -5 in the first half. And so far, that's looking pretty decent. So they kind of straighten things out. And so hopefully that cashes. On the NHL, I got Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay over 6.5. That's going to be a close one. Right now, there are 4 goals at the second period. So we need 3 more goals for that to go over. So we'll see what happens there. But at the same time, we're ready to rock and roll. So anyways, I was out in Vegas for the Super. Let's talk about the Super Bowl for a minute. So I was out in Vegas for the Super Bowl, and I was very fortunate to have a nice little play on Kansas City at +500. Good friend of mine out there got that in for me at the William Hill Sportsbook, one of the William Hill Sportsbooks out there. We took that play before the playoffs started, and it was a nice casher. But man, I tell you what a game that was. I mean, that game had everything going in it. And something about Kansas City, when they get 10 points behind, it's a look they need to kind of energize that team almost. And normally they do it early in the game, but this time they had to do it late. And I mean, if you were holding a ticket in your hand with KC money with about 7 minutes to go when you're down by 10, you're like, I don't think it's going to happen, especially after Mahomes threw that second pick. It didn't look good. And they got 2 3-and-out stops, and they scored 21 answer points at the end of the game. And that last score by Williams, on that last running play, normally, most teams would have probably sat that one out, but this kid wanted he wanted his name in the stat book. And that was a pretty important score there for a lot of people holding San Fran teasers, because that busted them teasers up in the Vegas books. That was a big play for them too. I talked to a couple guys out there, and they said they did very well with that score. Even though they had a lot of public Kansas City money, there was a lot of big teaser money on San Francisco plus the points, and that pretty much destroyed that on the 10-point teaser. So, anyways, that's the look for that on that part of it. And so now we're going to talk about some of the other things we got going on. Another thing I'm involved with, guys, and those of you who follow me on Twitter, I get involved with the horse races. I'm down here in Florida, and a big thing down here, it's that time of the year where we start talking about Derby prep races. And DJ and I, we'll do some shows on those, but I'm not going to get into those too much tonight. I'm just going to do a little filler time here talking about it until my man comes aboard. But anyways, we're looking at I'm going to be down in Tampa this Saturday. So what I encourage you guys to do, those are you that follow me on Twitter, and if you're not following me on Twitter, it's at BIG RAGOO62. Just like it says on the screen, I'm going to be live in Tampa this weekend. They got a Derby prep race called the Sam F. Davis. It's a points race. So what they do, how these horses qualify to get to the Kentucky Derby, is they have to win a certain number of races, key races. And this one in Tampa this Saturday is an early key race, and it's a good look going forward for a horse that comes out of that race and wins that race. So it puts them like on an early spotlight. Not as a favorite to win a Derby, but kind of gets them pointed in the right direction. And there's some races going, in Santa Anita and Aqueduct, and of course Gulfstream Park. So, like I say, this Saturday I'll be down there. I'll probably do a couple Periscope videos on the big races live Saturday afternoon, probably around 4 or 5 o'clock. So look for those. Look for those on Twitter. Give me a follow on Twitter if you're not following me. Then hopefully we can put you on some nice winners there. Last year I think I had 2 cashers. I had this was in the Tampa Bay Derby, anyways. But last year at the Sam Davis, we had a little horse that we won with, and then on Tampa Bay Derby Day we gave 2 winners. Both days we made a little bit of money, which was nice. The nice thing about the horses, you don't have to win every race. You just have to be on the right horse at the right race, and he can send you home a nice little winner. So it's not like sports gambling where you're laying a flat 110. Over there, the odds are adjusted, 6 to 1, 8 to 1, 12 to 1, unless you bet heavy chalk. And if you bet at favorites, then you got to lay a little bit of money sometimes. And when they don't hit, that winds up costing you a little bit of money there. So, anyways, all right. So I'm going to get into this college football thing. I'm going to try to do the best I can with what I got here. So I'm going to talk about we're going to talk about some coaching changes to start off with. So naturally, we know when you win a national championship, automatically that breeds coaching winners to go to other schools, and they want to take the talent, that was available, that trained those kids, and kind of move them over in the spot here or there. And the only thing I don't like about college football is, especially around bowl time, is what happens with these college coaches. Like the one instance, I'll talk about a coach close to home for us is Mike Norvell. Now, Mike Norvell was coaching the Memphis Tigers, which they won their bowl game, and they won their conference, the AAC conference. And before they even got to play that game, going to take the job at Florida State. So that does 2 things there. Number one, it probably energizes, base crowd. They're all fired up about it. And then the home team, Memphis, that he just left, it's not that he doesn't want to coach a team, but somebody asked me, well, why don't these guys coach these teams out in the bowl games before they leave? It's twofold for them. What happens in their case is, I'm not going to say betrayal, but it's a thing where they got to move on to the next thing. So like the coaches and the ADs kind of want to wash their hands with the coach. Not that they're disgruntled with them, because it's a business first. It's always a business, and you always hear about the kids. The kids are the most important thing. Which and then the kids, they kind of feel a little bit betrayed at the same time, believe it or not. So it becomes a 2-way street. It becomes a motivational thing, and it's always a business thing. So most of the times, 99% of the times when a coach makes an announcement he's leaving and they're bowl eligible, then they're gone. And these happens with quality program teams. Now the teams that are not making the bowl games, obviously they fire their coaches. They don't have that issue to deal with. But in this case, like a coach like Mike Norvell, who went to Florida from Memphis, Florida State from Memphis, the guy's a winning coach. So that's a good look there. But we'll talk about some of these coaches that have come on board, and we'll look at those coaches here right now. So I got my little list here, a little cheat sheet list. So we're going to talk. I'm just going to go right down the line. And if you guys got any questions in the chat, let's see what we got. Hey, Paco, what's going on, my man? And we got Top Set and Triple K Marine join us. These guys, Triple K was with us down in Lauderdale. Paco was on our last trip in Vegas. Not this one I went to last time, but the time before. And these are our baggers. We call them our baggers, our bag family. And we're going to keep rocking and rolling. And I think DJ's trying to pop in on us right here. So, DJ, you backstage? You want to come on in?
Hot dog it, man. Why is it that
Where
when
you at?
why is it when you use your laptop and you need it right away, it wants to reboot. It's actually okay, man. You got to reboot. You know,
Yeah.
puts me on punishment. Then once you start pushing reboot, it want to take forever where you really need it to come on to actually come on, man.
Let me guess you. Is it Apple MacBook?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Those things have a mind of their own. They last long, they work well, but they have a
Right.
mind of their own at times. And I think they knew how bad I wanted to get on the show, and they just wanted to take extra long time,
Sure. Make
extra
you
long
suffer
time.
just a little bit. So how you
Yeah,
doing tonight, my man? What's
man,
going
I'm
on?
I'm doing excellent. I made it in here, man. On my new schedule, but I've been hit or miss on my bets. Truthfully, I haven't had proper time to really sit back and cap some games in this basketball. I've been doing kind of like what I can,
Yeah.
but I had a look on Georgetown last night. They came out so flat, and then they tried to get it back in the end of the first half and second half. Still came up a couple points short. So I'm 1-4 for this week, which I did. I think I was 5-2 last week. Now I'm 1-4 so far, but I got some time ahead of me. I'll
Yeah.
probably get some time to cap. Actually, on I don't really like Friday games. All of those Ivy League schools
Ivy
and
League,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
We used to wait for Ivy League because those were the games where you could take the real shitty team against a good team, and always the lines adjusted. But most of the times, like if Harvard was playing Columbia, you could bet that Harvard was going to beat Columbia like 9 out of 10 times by the number. But it's not the same no more because those teams. It's a different animal. Harvard of late though, a few NCAA tournaments, they had a team that got to the 64 because they won the Ivy League a few times, and they were actually a pretty good
hmm
team. Surprisingly good. But that's the thing about college basketball. You always have those sleeper teams in there, and they get overlooked. But give Max all the credit in the world. You capping 350 teams, and he could just rattle off all the guys on the team, and
yeah, really.
it's amazing. It really
It,
is. But
it, it really is amazing, and he does it with no teleprompter.
right, right. Me, I gotta have cue cards, and my wife whisper in my ear when I
Man,
when I gotta say something.
Jeez, that's that. But years of experience, and guys like them, they always stand out and stand up because years of experience, it'll give you that, and that's what I'm working on because I've been
Yeah,
I've been gambling forever, but maybe the last 5 years I really started toning down into more of me capping and investment gambling and stuff like that. So I kind of
right.
changed my stuff. So I'm still a baby to doing things the right way, but I
Yeah.
definitely know how to do things my way because
Well,
that's how I've
listen,
been getting
if you
along.
can find a happy medium, like we're like old dogs. They say you can't teach an old dog new trick, which is a bunch of BS. But not that I learned any new tricks this year, but going through the process with you, when we started looking at the magazines and then we started reading into the teams, and I really started flipping some information that I hadn't used in the past, maybe for
Mhm.
like a long, long time. And I did, we both did excellent in the contest this year. I thought, we both,
Really?
we were both north of 50%, 55%, range, which is excellent in football. So I mean, it paid dividends. So it basically put you on the process of, getting to know these guys. Just like, let's say somebody like Max is knowing 350, maybe we know 130, on the college football
Yeah.
scale. So, everybody finds their comfort zone, and they roll with it. And then once you find what works for you, you just keep doing it. And we're pretty successful this year in college football. So,
Yeah.
and like I was telling the guys coming in, we never could sleep on this money because even though, college football is over, we're kind of, loading up the artillery for next year. And how do you do that? You start by looking at the coaching changes, number one, the recruiting classes coming in, number two, and then, you start, seeing how the spring football games go, and then you sit back and you start reading the beat writer stuff. So, and
Yeah.
then when the magazines come right out, we'll be right back at it again.
Yep. And besides, on another note, on the betting strategy type of deal. So outside of football, I always do my unit amount way down because I don't really play. Well, I may play March Madness kind of tough, but I don't play baseball very tough. I don't play NBA very tough. So when my unit
Yeah,
size is down like this, I feel it's a good time to like try different bet strategies, Um, you know,
Hmm.
just take, especially in baseball, because it comes on every day and it comes on early sometimes. So you have a lot of times to kind of watch things. You can look at some cards someday, and if you really sit back and think about it, in professional sports, there's under days and there's over days. Just like if you really, if you, I did it before, like basically just look at it. If you really look at it, it doesn't, it's never really like 50-50. It's usually lopsided. Either today was a big under day for everybody or a big over
Yeah.
day for everybody. And that's like one of the things I watch on the off season. But sometimes, especially this year with all the capping we did and all that, some of that stuff I had to put to the side because I was gaining new information. I was gaining new angles, and I was feeling lovely capping those games with you, Big Ragu. And it all paid off, like you said in the end.
Yeah, it was
You know,
good. It was it was
it,
it was a lot of fun, and I learned a little bit more this year than I normally would. Like you said, old dog, new tricks, and
mhm.
I kind of when we got to hang out with some wonderful people down in Miami. We made new friends, and we made new connections. Of course, the chat, all our guys in the chat that we communicate with day in day out. So it's just as a team, we get better as a team as we work together, and that's the process we go through.
Absolutely, man. And we calling all low baggers. Shout out to Alex Ramirez, Paco Healy in the chat, Askif Khan, a lot of y'all that's out here watching us today. But we calling all low baggers, all of those that's woke and aware. Y'all know what's going on the SBR channel. But we want to make sure that we keep all of our friends together because even from since IFBC, I've looked at a lot of people that I've met, low baggers, and people in the industry, all kinds of stuff that I want to have around for a long time. That I want to continue to do this. So if you guys
Yeah.
have any love for us, love for the low bag nation, man, make sure you tie into us. We gonna make sure that we keep everybody together. We got folks out right now trying to set up low bag events. We got a lot of stuff coming. We coming back with the MLB
Yeah.
contest. We having a meetup for March Madness. So stay tuned. Alex Ramirez, Triple K Marine, Top Set, all y'all stay tuned. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. All that good stuff because we got a lot
Yeah.
in store coming forward, man.
Yeah, just if you guys got any questions, we're open for DMs. Like you can hit us up on the DM, and we're gonna be creating. We're gonna be bringing the content week in, week out, and we just, we started off doing the college football things, but we're gonna expand everything. We're gonna be doing basketball, like Wham's doing the baskets. We're gonna roll right into baseball season with with Parlay Poppy and Noli and Dom. Dom's going to have the baseball program going on. DJ and I are going to get involved with that too. So I mean, there's going to be plenty of content. We right now this is a good place to gather. Tell everybody come in here on Thursday nights, Friday nights, and then we're going to work out the other nights. For the baseball and the basketball. Right now Wham Talk Wednesdays is on every Wednesday, like mid afternoon. So anytime give these guys a follow and make sure you subscribe to the channel. This way, when something pops off, you guys are right in. And then, it'll be all live content. We'll keep the chat format intact too. So we'll put it together. And then, like I said, hit us up in the DMs, and we'll be glad to answer any question you guys got.
Absolutely. And I wasn't even thinking about the roundup that we got for baseball, man. Parlay Poppy, Don Ricci, Noli Knows, and even
Yeah,
myself at times in
all
MLB,
stars,
and also you.
major all
And,
stars.
we got a nice lineup for this come. I think
Yeah,
we're gonna have big fun, especially on the lounge. Bringing people in. We
yeah.
still got contacts with Englehart. We got a lot of cappers out there that we mess with. So that's gonna be fun, man. As a matter of fact, I might stack that bankroll up a little bit for baseball season. This might be the best baseball season I had all year.
Baseball's a grind, man. 162 games. You got to be really patient, and there's different methods of baseball. That's something we'll get into too. We'll get into the different handicaps, systems for baseball. So it's going to be a lot of fun going forward. Trust me, guys. It sure will be.
Absolutely. Now to jump in, because now that the Boston the Sauce is off season right now, you'll see a lot of. Even though we'll talk about a whole bunch of stuff on our shows, baseball, NHL, basketball, whatever, we still want to stay in tune to what's going on in college sports as well, in college football especially. And that's why each week you'll see the title. It'll have something to do with college football, but make sure you come in and hang out with us. We'll give you a little bit of that and more. So to go into college football, I think maybe we should, since there's a lot of coaches changes out there so far, let's just jump into the ones in the SEC, which are some of the major ones right now. And we talked about it briefly on a couple other shows before, but first off, straight into Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, hired December 7. He's back in the Power Five after leading Florida Atlantic to a pair of conference championships. He's tuned up, and he, his big chance to go over here and be a part of the SEC. You got Saban, who's in the rebuild, last 2 years now. Who knows if his hands is folded right now? Is this a time when Lane Kiffin could step in there and do what he does on offense? Because he's an offensive guru.
Yeah.
To do it, it's going to be like bringing him over there. Although that's not his track record, it's kind of like bringing the Big 12 on over to the SEC, because he's gonna light up the scoreboard. He's gonna spread the offenses, and he's gonna do his thing over there. And this is his opportunity. This guy has been around a lot of great coaches, never really found his own lane. He kind of proved himself, because I was all against him when he went over there to FAU, but he absolutely proved himself over there, bringing the victories home with the recruits and everything that he had. And, now he's coming over here to Ole Miss, who, they have a footprint in the SEC. They more than likely had the money behind him to put some money behind him for him to do his thing. What do you think Lane Kiffin's going to do in this spot?
He's going to try to win some football games, but I think on the offensive side, I mean, we looked at them last year. I think were they the ones that had lost most of their offensive players or defense? I know they have like 3 returners. Remember,
they lost mostly. Mississippi lost all their offensive players.
Remember but they were pretty good on
13 on defense returning. Yeah, but a lot of those guys got hurt after like the 5th or 6th week.
And, I know we talked about that. I know you were liking a lot of unders with Mississippi early in the season, but I think their look is definitely, we always talk about this, and you especially talking about, getting to that 3rd year. So, with the, I mean, he's in a good spot, not in a good spot and a good spot at the same time. So basically, they only had 3 returning starters last year. So this year, we have to see how many come back there. But man, there's just so much talent in that conference. You talk about offense. You got a guy named what's his name from Washington State's coming to play in that conference with them too. What's the guy's name, man? Mike. I'm drawing a blank on his name now. The coach from Washington State.
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach. Gee, thanks. Okay. Anyways, Leach. So you know what he's going to try to do. He always said he wanted to play football in the SEC. Even when he was at the Big 12, he says, "I can't believe they're not doing this. I can't believe they're not doing that." Well, guess what, Mike? You're going to have your chance, but you're going to come up against some pretty stout defenses. But to answer your question with Mississippi, I think Mississippi's going to have to lead more of a balanced attack, based on some of the past recruits. We know that Kiffin does like to mix it up, pretty regularly, some big play capabilities. And when he was looking at FAU, they had a pretty big offense in their conference. I think they were like at the top, close to the top of the board in the American Conference. So I think going forward, he's probably going to try to instill some of that in his program, but whether he's going to be able to, off it onto the field first year, maybe not so much. Once they learn the system going forward, then I can see that happen. Same thing for Leach for that matter, with Leach coming in. So, I mean, probably the head scratcher of the SEC is the hire that they brought in from I guess it was the Georgia offense, or the Georgia defensive coach that they hired at Tennessee. I think was that the coach, or no, Arkansas? I'm sorry, Arkansas.
It's the lineman, the defensive lineman coach, right?
Defensive line coach, right?
Sam Pittman.
Pittman, yeah. So that was like the big head scratcher in the SEC. Everybody was like, they were talking about it in the media after the hire was made. Everybody was like, where are they going with this? What's going on with that? And then, so Arkansas, they might be up against it a little bit. That was a team that was like a bottom tier team. But I mean, you think Saban is going to have his struggles up against what he's got coming in? Maybe LSU with some departing coaches they have there. I think right now they said that Alabama had the number 2 recruiting class, and Georgia had like the top recruiting class as far as I understand. So
Well,
Georgia was like number 1 overall in the U.S. Overall in conference, all the conferences. Georgia had the top recruiting class. They had like 25 commits. They had like 4 5-stars and 15 4-stars. So they're
well,
loaded up.
when we speak about recruiting and even about coaching in 2020, I think it's time to reach into your notes and do some edits because a lot of things are changing and how things get done. And I think it's going to take effect on the field big time. One is salary. Salary is a big time thing right now. I mean, these college coaches are getting salaries, keeping them out the NFL. They're comfortable where they at, nice jobs. As a matter of fact, Kiffin in this one, I think Kiffin's set to make 16.2 million off this contract, and that's not even
Wow.
including the bonuses and stuff. He had a base salary of like 950,000 before, but now he's up in the 4 million category right now. So I think that's a big thing to look at. And as I was doing some research on the coaches today, I noticed that's a big it comes right up in the search. As soon as you type a coach's name, they salary. How much is
Yeah.
this guy making? So it's becoming a topic. And when you start putting money in anything that I've learned in my whole life that I've been living, once the money comes in, it changes the logistics of everything, changes people's attitude, changes all kinds of things. So, and hopefully for the better, hopefully the schools put more money behind the programs, hopefully more fans show up to watch the game, and hopefully college sports go up even another notch. I think it's one of the most exciting sports out of them all. I think it's more exciting than pro football.
It's big business,
Yeah,
definitely.
but yeah, it's definitely becoming big business now. And another thing, topic in 2020 that we got to talk about is, I mean, this discussion is on the table right now on these coaches who don't want their assistants to get away, their coordinators to get away.
It happens when you win. It's just a natural progression. Like I touched on that a little bit, before you came on. Like I didn't get into all the nuts and bolts of the coaching changes, but I was talking about Norvell leaving Memphis, to come to Florida. But that's a head coach position. But you're right. Probably the most notable ones are the ones that came out of LSU. Aranda, right? Aranda, he went to Baylor, and
right.
he was the offensive guy, and then he's a defensive guy. And then also you had Jeff Scott, who left Clemson to go to University of South Florida, down in Tampa. So, and it's hard to hold these guys, like you said, because the money is so big. They're not when these guys, even as assistants, when they were making a little bit less, and Clemson was paying their assistants too. They were probably one of the first to really offer
Yeah.
serious money. Like Gabo, years ago, he kind of gave up some of his salary just to hold on to, like Scott and Venables, defensive guy.
Yeah.
So, but you probably see more of that, like you were saying. More money is going to be thrown even at the assistants, and it's going to try to maintain the nucleus of the coaching programs at these schools.
Yeah, that's a big one right now. I think who is it? The defensive coordinator over at Clemson. He's more like they call him a defensive coach. He's the
Yeah,
defensive coach on that side, and they
yeah,
pay him.
Venables.
They pay him accordingly. So, and everybody wants to get a hands on a good defensive coordinator. So, that's a big thing. And another topic that's on the table right now too, and the coaching aspects of thing is that how well coaches are doing, because traditionally in the past, coaches' schemes, by the time they move schools and all that kind of stuff, the schemes are so far off that the recruits that are there don't really match up. I
Yeah.
mean, the proof is in the pudding for me.
Case in point, Oklahoma.
Yeah, but
Alex Rich.
now you got a lot of coaches that are coming into these, and they're expecting them to win fast. So they're expecting them to win with the players that's already there. That's not their recruits and all that. I don't think the universities are having the patience to do that. I even heard old Kelly over there at UCLA. I mean, the guy's only been there 2 years. Yeah, he took some tough losses, but he definitely doesn't have his group of players. I mean, that the type of offensive coach that he is, he needs to have the right tools to do the right job. And now he doesn't have that with what he have right there. They knew that Moore before let his hands down and let the team just sag out for like 2 years. Now this guy comes in here. He made a little ruckus and got the troops going at the end of the first season. Now the second season, they saying that he's disconnecting with the players. He's not, he doesn't, but they're not his players. They're not his recruits. He didn't meet their mamas and daddies. So how could you expect him to connect with the players right away like that? And here we come in the third year, he's going to have a few of his recruits in there, but they're going to be freshmen, maybe redshirt freshmen. And if he don't do it this year, from the looks of things, that might be his last year at UCLA.
Yeah, well, he'll have I would think he'd have more than freshmen because if he's been there 3 years, maybe he's got some sophomores and juniors tied in.
Yeah,
too,
he might have a few there and there.
Maybe a handful of juniors and probably mostly sophomores, like you said.
Yeah, but then you got schools like you was talking about Alabama and Saban and their recruiting class. Now, prestigious schools recruiting class is going to always be high just for certain schools, despite what coaches there, what program they running or whatever. Just like around here, some of the top kids are going to go to USC no matter if they 10-0 or 0-10. Like some of it's family tradition,
Right.
and they have an alumni that's always looking to win, always looking to be better the next year, if not that year. So, that's a crazy dynamic too when it comes into recruiting nowadays. And recruiting is going way further than we ever known before. They recruiting kids out of junior high, all that, geographically it's expanding. And on the technical level, and just in the small notes that we just spoke up over the last 10 minutes, technically, if you put all that together into the game, wow, what an impact this is going to make somewhere. We just got to figure it out, Big Raccoon.
Well, I know that's a $64,000 question, but there is a ton of information out there. Like if you want to follow these recruits, like I think we spoke about a few sites, and the two that I've been using the most is Bleacher Reports. I brought that up a few weeks back because they've been really, really good for college recruits. And then Rivals is a good one that Yahoo puts out. You can get a lot of good info on Rival. You get some film there. And then also another one I like a lot is 24/7 Sports. They do an excellent job and they specialize on the recruiting aspects. Matter of fact, these guys have campus guys on campus at each campus. It's one of their offices or just off campus, and that's all they do is just college football recruiting news. So that's good to follow. But Bleacher Report is good, Rivals, and 24/7 Sports. Those are the guys that I look for when I talk about recruiting and stuff.
Right, and today also technology has this advantage to today in sports as well, because back in the day, the recruiters, basically were developed a bunch of ex-players who lived in certain areas that the coach could call and contact and say, hey man, go get that guy warm over there. We might want to come out and take a look at him. But nowadays they got the cell phone, they got YouTube. These guys can recruit these guys all kinds of ways. They don't need to fly nowhere they could do a FaceTime with the mama and daddy, all that. They don't really have to do all that.
That's how to make their announcements. Like today, like the other day was National Signing Day, right? Mm-hmm. And all these kids, it used to be a pretty dramatic thing on ESPN.
Right.
The top. That's like, it's like a news flash. Oh yeah, Joe Brown signed with Notre Dame this year, and they show a picture of him with 3 hats, and then he throws the 1 hat on,
Right.
It's kind of anticlimactic anymore because, like you said, with the technology, but it's not the same. Everything kind of, I want to say, gets watered down. Certain things get pumped up, and certain things get watered down, and the recruiting process is one that kind of got watered down as far as the limelight. That's because there's so many different platforms that this information comes across. It, ESPN is not the only one shoving that info out there. It's all over the place, and and they can do it from their living room too. You know what I mean? So there's no need to
and I'd like to say one of the biggest things that's going to be going up is sports betting as a whole, because with all this other stuff going on in technology, the edges are definitely there. I don't know how many times that I've seen the edge, look past it because it was just too easy. Oh, that's too easy. I can't roll for that. I know I'll fall. And then later on after the game, later on after the game, you'd be like, oh man, I should have took that. I should have took that, and I should have took that, and I should have that, because the edges are right nowadays. You can really go in there and find you an edge, and even if some of the edges are not always 100% right, but some of those edges you'll look back and say, hey, I'll do it again.
Yeah, that comes from experience. But you know what? The thing you talk about, the bankroll management side of things, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. But then when you're in the zone and you find these edges, you might find 10 edges on a Saturday, and the next week you might not even find one edge. So that's why you got to play them when you find them.
That's why they say you got to bang the book. And we who bangers around here, we bang them books. You know what I'm saying? But let's move on to the next one. We spoke on it a little bit, and that's over at Arkansas. Sam Pittman, lineman coach, coming over. Now, a lot of people have different feelings about lineman coaches as far as coaching, going from being a lineman coach to being head coach. It has its ups and its downs. There are guys that really stunk at it, and there's guys that are really doing good at it, because if you understand the game from the trenches on out, at least on offense you can move the ball, and at least on defense you can provide pressure. So
this guy. What do you think they brought this guy in for? If you looked at Sam Pittman, which he came from Georgia, correct? He was a Georgia offensive line coach.
Yeah.
So what do you think the look was with? He was the highest paid offensive line coach in college football.
Right, $900,000.
Yeah, a year. About $1 million, let's say, for argument's sake.
Yeah.
So for them to lure him away, they had to give him a pretty good offer, like you said, also. But what do you think Arkansas's focus is going to be? Bringing an offensive line coach over to what has Georgia always produced? Top-notch offensive line and running game. So
it's basically a picture out of the Dallas Cowboys book, and that's starting teams that are on the bottom and building them up. One of the greatest places you can start is at the offensive line, because the offensive line, most of those guys, they have longevity. They play 3-4 years solid, and also they're valuable. They're a big asset to the team having a great line. Yeah. I mean, look, Georgia may not have won the ships like they wanted to, but they're a top contending team year after year.
Every year.
They're, like 4 years straight, they were predicted to beat Alabama. But so maybe Arkansas is just starting, if you think about you at the bottom of the barrel, you say, hey, I'm going to take some time out, I'm going to invest some money into my football team. Where do I start? Oh, I could get a hold to this lineman offensive coach over here and bring him over. But, the key to it is going to be, who does he bring with him? And also another advantage to him coming over from Georgia is he's already in the SEC, acclimated to the SEC. And that's probably one of the big factors, because SEC guys, they stick by the script 100%. So they're loving the fact that they brought in another coach and gave him a chance that's already been in the SEC. And this time it's a lineman coach.
He's coming from a winning program, too.
Yeah.
It's not like he's coming from New Mexico, or he's coming from, some other school like Central Michigan, or not to say Central Michigan is bad. You know what I'm saying? It's coming from a top-tier program with a top-tier offensive line, top-tier running game. They're always there. So the guys coming from winning stock. So even though people are hating on the play or the pick, I'm not hating on it so much. When you start peeling back the layers on it, like you said,
right?
You want to start from the guys. Maybe he's not a proven head coach. But hey, maybe he's in the right program, because they got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a couple coaches out there, I can't put my name on it right away, that were lineman coaches that's doing really well right now in some of those smaller conferences. Yeah. But let's jump to the next one, man. Our guy Mike Leach comes over from Washington to Mississippi State. Now, I say he got a dry sandwich with his Mississippi State team, because, I mean, they played, but they didn't really stand out in no area. So he's kind of like getting the blank surface right here for Mike Leach. Mike Leach, one of those old guys that you can't count out, like Les Miles. And this guy, I don't know, with a clean slate on Mississippi State, what can he do? And will he do it right away?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's kind of like Lane Kiffin all over again. They're going to be – matter of fact, that's going to be fun to watch these two coach against each other last game of the season when Mississippi plays Mississippi State, right? You're going to have two first year coaches going at it, but not first year coaches in the sense of experience, but first year with the program. So, and they're going to be almost, I'm not saying same style football. We know what Leach does. All Leach does is throw the ball. He doesn't have
Yeah.
much of a running game. So, the first thing he's going to go after is a quarterback, obviously, and then probably some wide receivers. Is he going to put an offensive line together first? He's probably going to evaluate the talent, but I don't know if he's going to be one of these guys that's going to have a real early adjustment period based on the talent he has. So for him to come, I don't know if this is one of those things because he's always said he wanted to coach in the SEC, and maybe this was the only opportunity he had to jump on a team that was willing to bring him on. And that could be a little bit dangerous in a sense where, the talent level might not be up to where his standard is, but for what it's worth, I'm sure he's going to give it a go. So, when we start looking at the breakdown of the actual talent that he has, he's going to definitely try to instill his style of football because he's done it everywhere he's been. He went up to Washington State and they made them a perennial passing team. He had Minshew, he had the other kid last year. He's had three quarterbacks that have done pretty well. And I think the last kid had better numbers than Minshew did. He's like the all-time leading passer at Washington State. So I think he's had the thing I remember at Washington State was that game when they had played USC when they blew that lead, right? They had all that points and then they had that major meltdown.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen right here too in my little reviews of some stuff that they trying to say that Mike Leach coming over to the SEC, maybe somebody who can compete offensively with Lane Kiffin. But I don't understand them bringing so much offense to the SEC. They got to bring some athletes with them too because some of these guys are built so heavy that they can't do all that athletic stuff that those little 4'2" tall receivers can do and all that kind of stuff.
SEC's got plenty of offense. I mean, look what LSU did this year. Look what not so much the Gators, but they look when the big teams had played each other. Surprisingly enough, I was looking for more defense out of these guys and more offense. I was surprised how many shootouts they got involved in. I said this is really not the classic, LSU Bama type game when those two guys scored almost 100 points in that game. So I mean that's going to play right into these guys' hands if they continue that trend. So maybe they seen the handwriting on the wall with Kiffin and Leach coming in. Maybe they are changing things up. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know because like you said,
we all know that you have to.
Like you said, though, they did put some offense up. LSU played Texas. They put some offense up, So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch those guys function over there. And it could be a flop, though. Could be a flop. To me, Pac-12 and SEC is like oil and water. They don't really mix. Like two different theories, two different looks on the sport, to tell you the truth. Although they've met in some championship games and had some really nice games, but it really comes down to which team is the leader in success each year when they go into those games. But shout out to the SEC for making those kind of big moves, trying to switch things up, change it up a little bit. So maybe we can get the old SEC that wasn't so Alabama dominated, and they can juggle through the Mississippi States and Mississippi's be good again. The Tennessees come up and all that good stuff. So hopefully we get an SEC like that, because when we talked about SEC earlier in the year, we basically had called it like you got the upper echelon and then you got trash all the way down. And I don't know.
2 teams in the East and maybe like 3 teams in the West, and that was it. And then you have 12 teams. You have 12 teams in the conference. So you're telling me that better than like only 30% of the conference as quality football teams? The talent's all there. Just it's a matter of getting these kids coached up. But there's not 100. There's not a boatload of Sabans, and there's not a boatload of Ogerons, I guess you want to call it that nowadays, but I mean, that's why they're bringing in the Leaches and the Kiffins, and they're trying to kind of balance the playing field, so to speak, to try to get a little better talent coaches. I think it's more at the coaching level because there's plenty of talent all the way around. So and
just to lead into to next week, because like I said, I want to have a little college football at least title that we could touch on a little bit. We'll talk about some of the players that already chose to move over to some other schools, because that's a big going topic. That's just as good as the recruiting class. When you talk about are we going to be talking about what kind of transfer class each team's had in the future or something? But it's going to be a major part of the game. We watched it this year. Sean King moving over other places, Jalen Hurd.
Yeah.
We watched it, and it was kind of exciting to see these athletes go to other schools and compete. It's not exactly the first time we saw it, but it's more and more trending that you see these players show up somewhere else. They got a national championship winner out of Burrow. He's probably going to be the number one pick and all that, and he was a transfer. I think the last three number one picks in the draft, I think, was transfers or something like that. But we gotta keep our eye on that. We gotta keep our eye on that.
I want to ask you about a coaching change. What the newest vacancy is Mark D'Antoni. We heard that he stepped down as the Michigan State coach. Just kind of that was a surprise. Just like what's his name Peterson did at Washington State. We've had more of that of late.
Right.
Than not. But I want to ask you about I know you follow Colorado State because that's right up your alley over there at the in the Mountain West. But
yeah.
Bobo's gone, correct?
And Bobo's gone.
Who's taking over that program over there?
Let me see.
I can tell you if you don't know.
It's Steve Adazio.
Steve Adazio.
Adazio, there you go.
Yeah,
Steve Adazio.
He used to be the Boston College coach, and he used to be Urban Meyer's assistant up in Florida. He's the guy that recruited Hernandez, the guy that went to jail for murder.
Right. Yeah.
But he's from the north. He's from the Northeast. He's from Connecticut area, and that's why he recruited Hernandez back in the day. But that's why he had ties to Boston College too. But I think this is an interesting hire. He's been around the block a few times, but his troubles are he hasn't really had a winning program everywhere he's been. I think he was like in Temple for a little while. I think they were a little better than 500 when he was there, like in 2011. But for the most part, he's been a struggling coach. But I figured Colorado State would try to get somebody a little better. But I think now you're starting getting down to like second and third tier coaching because there's only so many coaches to go around. But I was wondering what did you think with Colorado hiring this guy? Did you have any ideas?
It's a weird thing right there. I just like we said about Les Miles. Somebody in the front office must be hooking up some money for this guy because from his background and Temple, Boston College, those teams in those conferences, they don't play nothing like the Mountain West. The Mountain West is a whole nother. I'm talking about from weather elements, speed, schemes. They got it all in the Mountain West. So this guy got his work cut out for him. He better pack a big lunch because all the way down to San Jose State, one of the worst teams in the Mountain West, can stand up on you and play some.
Boston College was a pretty good over team. Their defenses were a little lacking, but they did have a little bit of offensive firepower, and they were riddled by injuries. But I'm just saying, him as a coach, generally speaking, he doesn't really put out a lot of winning programs, even though he has some nice teams that are able to, score points and put things together. They're just, he's about a 500 coach, and I think his career record is 57 and 55. So he's kind of a middle of the road type of coach, And I guess they're probably going to be that same type of mediocre team, again.
Yeah, yeah. And that was one thing that I spoke with one of my alumni guys, and it made a lot of sense. But it's kind of a downer for us sports better because we always expect the best. We always looking for the underdog and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of these college schools that have football programs, despite how many fans like the team and all that, some of them are just cool with a 10-2 season. They just cool with a winning record. They're not in the fight for a national championship or nothing like that. If they can win their conference, that's like winning the Super Bowl to them. And I think that's what we have here with Colorado State. My guy Bobo was out there kind of sick for a couple years. He probably needs to take that rest and get his
Yeah.
health back together. But the replacement, big question mark, man. But I'm gonna stay tuned. You can go to the Mountain West. They have their own website. You can go to the mountainwest.com or whatever it is, and they'll keep you up to date with all the interviews and all that stuff right on the video screen from all the schools and all the sports right there. So I'll be staying tuned to that as usual to see how this guy adapts. You know, he's even getting different type of players. You know, these young guys out here on the West Coast is wild. Some of them guys over there on the East Coast, you can contain some of them guys at Boston College. You know, they got a tradition. They still believe in all that stuff. These kids on the West Coast,
they go to church on Wednesdays and Sundays on the back east of Boston. So
yeah, these kids, oh man, these kids out here, man, they out there wasting their parents' money, but having a good time.
I call Boston College Notre Dame light.
They are, and they have a lot of tradition that hold them back. And same thing in Notre Dame, we got a lot of tradition that keeps us going to some of those next level. And when I was having that conversation with my buddy, sometimes I look at it, I say, man, Notre Dame might just be one of them 10-2 types, 10-1, and the undefeated season was great for them. You know, that Kelly's job ain't really been on the hot seat, and you know he's had different records and all that kind of stuff. But a national championship, we've had it before, so it's on our menu. But through this playoff system that we're going through, I don't think we're getting the recruits because of the academic requirements. We're not getting the recruits that's just there just to play football and you know, all that. Our guys during that time of year, they worried about studies and, you know, getting the mass and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we'll make it back to an. I mean, I pray and hope we do, but I don't know if we'll make it back to a national championship in the playoff system. And we don't know how long the playoff system is going to be around, or if they're going to upgrade it to an 8-team, or we don't know the end of that story right there. But yeah, Notre Dame might be 10-2. It's Colorado's state school right here. They might just be sticking this guy in here to fill a void, but he definitely got his work cut out for him. You know, Boise alone, you know, Bluegrass State, cold, hard hitters, big linemen, Wyoming, freezing over there, big linemen, run the ball down your throat, and then you got Fresno State who come out, run and pass. You know, it's wild over there. You know, San Diego State, big linemen running the ball. This guy's better be ready for this, man. I hope he got some weapons for these guys, but got to keep my eye on it. That might be my key one right there, Big Ragu.
Yeah. You want to stay in the SEC for one more?
One more. Let's do it.
All right. How about we talk about Missouri Tigers?
Mizzou.
They get a guy, the third coach in 3 years to leave the school, Appalachian State's Eli Drinkowitz. Okay. Now, Drinkowitz kind of stepped in the role as an assistant from last year because Satterfield went to coach Louisville, right? Satterfield was in Louisville first-year coach, and they did pretty well with him. And now Drinkwitz, he's leaving Appalachian State. So they're on Appalachian State, the poor school. They lost 3 coaches in 3 years. So and they went 12-1 under Drinkwitz got it. So he takes his knowledge and prowess over to the Missouri Tigers. Now Missouri Tigers, they weren't bad. You know, they were like a middle tier in the East. You know, they one time they were talking about maybe they can, you know, not necessarily, you know, beat the Gators. The Gators, you know, the Gators had 2 10-win seasons back to back, which that's an accomplishment in itself for a second-year coach. You know, so that's 2 years in a row. What's his name? What the Gators got. But anyways, Drinkwitz is going to have his work cut out with him because you know they lost their quarterback last year. I'm trying to remember the kid that took over for the starting job because Locke, he went to play. I think he's a Denver Broncos quarterback. He was a rookie this year. So, you know, now he's going to be able to really put his mark on this team. You know, we'll see how he does with them. The Tigers, I think the past couple seasons, they're like 24-26. The last 4 seasons, they're 24-26. And here's the killer for them. They were 11-21 in conference play in 4 years. So they've got a lot of room to improve. So, you know, when we start breaking these teams down later in the year, you know, we're probably going to go back and look at some of these past, you know, matchups that they've had with where most of their losses have come. Obviously 11-21 in conference, but they're probably playing like 80% of those games in the East. And the toughest two teams in the East is Georgia and Florida. And it usually comes down to that Georgia-Florida game in Jacksonville every year, who winds up winning that conference. On the East to play Alabama or LSU, but who knows what that's going to happen this year. But are you familiar with Drinkwitz? I mean, I've got to go back and do a little bit of research on him.
I think I got it up right here. I think he may be fit for the job. He came up the old-fashioned way. Was a high school coach, was a quarterback coach, running back coach, offensive coordinator, tight end coach at Boise, offensive coordinator and QB coach at Boise. Offensive coordinator, QB coach at NC State, and then head coach at Appalachian State. So he's one of those guys that might fit good into the SEC if he can get grasp to the athlete. Yeah, he started 2010, 10 years from Auburn coordinator to head coach of Missouri. So that's pretty good for Derkowitz. I think the guy may be cut out for this. That may be the reason why they got him over there. But he did really good at Appalachian State. But he inherited some really good players over there, and they've been dominating that league over there for a long time. But guess what he gets going into this? Same salary as Lane Kiffin, $4 million a year.
Not too shabby, huh?
Yeah, not too shabby at all. But that says a lot to me, more for Missouri than anything, because that's saying Missouri's willing to put the bread up to get the guys in there to put them on the map. And their fans and stuff, those are some exciting games when they do play, even though they were 6-6, which is maybe good for them to go 500, to step in the right direction. Now they bring in the coach. Maybe they have the enthusiasm and the camaraderie from the school and the team, and maybe this is a good look for them. If this guy can be some type of genius, just a little bit, he can compete with some of these top coaches over here in the SEC.
Well, like I said, 11-21 in conference play, and if they're 500, that's telling you they're winning the majority of games early in the season.
Yeah.
Now you got to break those down even further. So you got to go back and start looking at the numbers versus the number that we're worried about, the spread, right? So the L's and W's don't mean shit because they don't pay you for those.
Right.
But we got to be talking about, the ATS numbers. That's the numbers we care about.
Absolutely, man. But we ended up to the end of this show, man. It's been fun. It's been informative. We're going to keep it coming, man. Y'all go tell a friend. Tune in to the Boston and Sauce Show on Thursdays. They out there dropping knowledge that's going to hit you like a ton of bricks 8 months from now when the season starts. Something crazy like that. But that's what's going down right here on the Boston and Sauce, man. I was so happy to make it on here with you, Big Ragu. Another show in the books. And just another wonderful time hanging out with my guy, Big Ragu. You got anything for them to say, Big Ragu?
Same here. Hey, listen, don't forget, guys, give us a follow. Tell your friends. I'm going to be at the track Saturday, like I told you earlier when I kicked the show off. I was talking about horse racing a little bit, DJ. I was trying to do a little filler time. So they got the Tampa Bay Festival coming up, and one of the first Derby practices going Saturday. So, and I'm probably going to give a little info on the show tomorrow about that too. But anyways, give us a follow. Follow our man DJ. Spread the love. And guess what, DJ?
I see you at the window.
I see you at the window. Good night, everybody.
There it is. There. Y'all have a good one.
The Boston and Sauce Show.
Boston and Sauce Show.
Boston and Sauce Show.
Boston and Sauce Show.